Hi Seattle U content editors, this is your web support specialist Megan Otis, and this video is a brief overview about website accessibility and some important things you can do in Terminal 4 in order to make your Seattle U websites more accessible. These slides were initially shared at the Web Team's quarterly web forum in fall 2018. As content editors, website accessibility is one of our most important responsibilities. But what does that term, web accessibility, mean? Well, website accessibility encompasses all of the things we do to ensure that all users can access and navigate our web content, including and especially users with disabilities. This includes users who are using screen readers and other assistive devices to read your website out loud to them, as well as users who need visual enhancements to help them see your website better, and users who navigate your site using keyboard-only or voice-controlled navigation. Some types of disabilities that may impact web use include visual disabilities like blindness, low vision, color blindness, and contrast sensitivity, auditory disabilities such as deafness or being hard of hearing, motor disabilities like the inability to use a mouse, slow response time, limited fine motor control, and also cognitive disabilities like learning disabilities such as dyslexia or distractibility, inability to remember or focus on large amounts of information at once. And these are just some of the types of disabilities that might impact web use. So why is this important? Why is website accessibility important? Well, we cannot and should not exclude users with disabilities. A commitment to website accessibility is fully in line with our university's commitment to diversity and inclusion, and consistent with our mission for creating leaders for a just and humane world. So not only is it part of our mission, it's also better for our business as a university. People with disabilities are a significant portion of the population, and if we are excluding people with disabilities from accessing all of the information and the full experience of our website, and our website is our #1 tool for marketing and communications at the university, then we're not serving all of our stakeholders, current and prospective students, parents, families, current and prospective faculty and staff, alumni, community members, donors, etc., as well as we can, and we could be losing out on prospective students. So not only is it the right thing to do, but Seattle U is required by federal law to meet minimum website accessibility standards. We cannot think about website accessibility as something special, as an add-on, that only benefits people with disabilities. It benefits all users and should be part of our normal, usual practices. Without getting too detailed, I do want to mention that there are several laws governing website accessibility, including Section 504 and 508 of the Rehabilitation Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, among others. I will be posting a slide deck with all of these links to the website if you'd like to learn more. One set of web accessibility standards that web developers use are the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. It's a set of guidelines initially developed by academics and technology professionals in 1999 at the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, which is an international governing body for the Internet. The most recent version, WCAG 2.1, was just released earlier in 2018 and includes 12 guidelines grouped around 4 principles: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. WCAG 2.1 also has 3 different degrees or levels of conformance in order to meet the needs of different groups in different situations. Single A, the lowest levels, double A, the mid-range, and triple A, the highest level with the most success criteria. The web team's goal is for the Seattle University website to be 100% compliant with WCAG 2.1 AA within the next 2 years, but we need your help as content editors to reach this goal. As you already know, we have a very small web team and a very large website, over 17,000 pages. So together with our 400 plus content editors from around campus, we have a dual responsibility for making our web content accessible. Here in the Marketing Communications web team, we are doing our best to meet our responsibility. Last fall, when we launched our most recent design refresh, we were able to make significant improvements in our website accessibility across the board. But it is an ongoing, iterative process, and we make accessibility improvements frequently in the site-wide style, in our content types and page layouts, and all the other templates and tools that we provide to you, our content editors, to use in your Seattle U websites. And we are expanding our training and support options as well. We've recently launched an expanded training course for new Terminal 4 users in Canvas. And the expanded training does cover accessibility, in addition to basics like how to navigate the CMS. Any content editor is welcome to get access to the Canvas training course, even if you're not a new user. Just email us to get access. But as the subject matter experts, you, our content editors, do have primary responsibility for updating your page content. And you do have responsibility for meeting web accessibility guidelines to the best of your ability. And to help you meet your responsibility, here are some things you can do in Terminal 4 to help you make your Seattle U website more accessible. First, and this is a big one, you should use plain language on your website. Your web content should be clearly written, easy to read, and written as concisely as possible. The web team manager is fond of saying, take the number of words on the page and cut it in half, and then cut it in half again, and you might be in the right ballpark. Always make sure to check your spelling and grammar before you publish. Terminal 4 does have a built-in spell checker in the text editor, but you can always install add-ons or extensions to your browser, such as Grammarly, which is a tool that I personally use and love. Try to minimize your use of slang, jargon, acronyms, and abbreviations. And I know as academics we really love all of our acronyms, but it's important that we're not assuming that our audience has the same knowledge as we do. So if using these specialized vocabulary are necessary for your website, then it's important to provide definitions for those terms. Now, what constitutes being easy to read is not cut and dry, and it strongly depends on the audience. And for us as a university, our audiences, even our youngest prospective students, generally speaking, have a higher reading level than the general population. However, there are people with disabilities, even amongst the most highly educated users. So it's very important that we try to make our web content more readable. There are a number of different ways to calculate readability, and one of those ways is with the Flesch-Kincaid readability test, which involves finding the average number of syllables per word and the average number of words per sentence. So if you want to increase your readability, one way to do that would be to write shorter sentences and replace complex, multisyllabic words with more simple ones. We also know from extensive research that users don't read websites the same way they read printed materials. So you need to make your text skimmable as well, by having short paragraphs, bulleted lists, and lots of headings so all users can easily figure out where they're going to find the information they are looking for. See our web content guidelines and writing for the web pages on the web team website for more information on this topic. Not only are headings important to make your content more skimmable, but proper use of headings are very important for accessibility as well. You want to organize your content into a structure using headings that conveys a meaningful hierarchy. So headings, including page titles, should accurately reflect or outline or summarize the content that's contained within that page or within that portion of the page. The section name or page title always serves as your H1 heading. Even when using a page layout that does not display the page title, it still exists behind the scenes and is still read to screen reader users. So don't skip levels. Don't use an H3 heading if you haven't used an H2 heading yet. So here's an example. Let's say we have a page on our department website that is providing an overview of the degree options available to students in our department. So maybe the page title or the H1 heading is degree options. And in our text on the page, maybe our H2 headings are undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees. Then beneath each H2, maybe you have a few H3 headings. Like under undergraduate degrees, maybe you have Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science and minor. And if you have two different options under Bachelor of Arts, like for two different specializations, you'd put those titles in an H4 heading. It does seem straightforward enough, but this might be another tough one for some content editors because some of us select a specific heading because we like the way that it looks on the page. But selecting your headings that way can make things especially confusing for users with disabilities, especially screen reader users. If it's a heading, don't just bold or italicize it. Make sure you mark it up as a heading using the Terminal 4 text editor. Some screen readers do allow users to jump from heading to heading to heading to make it easy for them to find exactly the content that they're looking for. It's also not good form to mark up a complete sentence as a heading just because you want it to be bigger and red to draw more attention to it on the page. Again, proper use and nesting of headings is very important for accessibility. Next, all images on your website must have an alt or alternatives description. The alt description is read aloud by screen readers and needs to convey the meaning of the image to someone who cannot see it or see it well. Your alt descriptions need to be short, 125 characters or less. So that's less than the length of a tweet. This website accessibility guideline is a really big one, and for some content editors, if you haven't been doing this all along, you may have some work cut out for you in reviewing all of the images you've used on your website and adding alt descriptions to those images. But this is a crucially important aspect of website accessibility. For most images, you will add the alt descriptions to the image in the media library, but some content types have you add images directly to the content item, rather than having you select an image from the media library. And for those content types with direct add image fields, unless the image is purely decorative, like with banner images, you will add the alt description to a field in the content type. Also, you want to avoid using images on your website that contain a lot of text in them. So don't turn a pretty graphic or a big long PDF into an image file and plop it into your website and call it a day. The result of doing that is that now there's a huge amount of important content on your website that's totally inaccessible to some users with disabilities. If you do opt for including text-heavy images, you must also include an accessible alternative. Here are some examples. If the text is short, you can put the text in the image's alt description. If the text is too long for the alt description, you could just put the text straight onto the page instead of having it contained within an image. You could also consider using an accessible, relevant content type, such as our infographic content type. Or you could post a link to an accessible PDF version of the image. Another important guideline for those of you who currently have or are looking to add video or audio content like podcasts to your website. You must provide captions or transcripts for all video and audio content, so that information is accessible to users who are deaf or hard of hearing, though captions do benefit all users as well. In Terminal 4, we have an audio content type that allows you to add an audio file along with a caption or transcript file. We also have two different video content types, which allow you to embed a video into your Seattle U website that is hosted on Vimeo or YouTube. So for your video files, you need to add captions to your videos through either Vimeo or YouTube. So how do you do that? Well, in YouTube, you have several easy options for adding captions, including my personal favorite, their transcribe and autosync feature, which I find very easy to use. Or you can add automatic captions in YouTube. But the automatic captioning feature is only about 70 to 80% accurate, so it must be reviewed for accuracy and corrected in order to meet legal web accessibility guidelines. In Vimeo, however, you must upload a previously created caption file, or Vimeo refers you to a third-party paid transcription or captioning service. You can download a caption file from YouTube, or you can use ARC, the video management system which is integrated into Canvas. ARC also has automatic captioning, but just as with YouTube, the automatic captioning must be reviewed for accuracy and corrected in order for it to meet the legal standards. Another important guideline for ensuring website accessibility is if you post files such as PDFs or Word documents to your Seattle U website, you need to make sure that those files are accessible before you upload them into Terminal 4. Now, your PDFs and Word documents are not automatically accessible, but Adobe and Microsoft do have great tools to check for accessibility issues in your files, and they also have good documentation with step-by-step instructions for how to make your documents accessible. Again, the links here to the instructions for making your documents accessible will be available on our website. Another important aspect of website accessibility is appropriate use of links. First, you need to make sure that your links are working correctly, and if not, broken links should be fixed as soon as possible. Second, link text, or what you actually see on the page that you click on in order to go to another location. Link text should be short. It should be descriptive of where it will take you, and it needs to make sense out of context. Therefore, you want to avoid uninformative phrases like click here or read more. Most screen readers allow users to get a list of links on the page and to jump from link to link to link. So if all of the links are just click here or read more, then that makes for a very frustrating user experience for your users with disabilities. If you have an image that you're using as a link, then the alt description should contain the link text, or the description of where it will take users if they follow that link. Next, links should be the only thing on the page that are underlined. If you want to emphasize certain words or phrases, use bold or italics instead. And last, as link text is read out loud by screen readers, don't use a full URL as link text unless it's human readable. This is especially important if the URL is really long and or full of random nonsensical letters and numbers. Making sure that your links are used appropriately is a very important part of accessibility. Another important aspect of website accessibility is using tables appropriately. Tables can be especially challenging for users with disabilities, especially those using assistive devices like screen readers. First, tables should be used to present tabular data only. Tables should not be used to control formatting or page layout. If you need to present tabular data, then it's important for tables to be appropriately formatted in the HTML code so that users can successfully navigate and understand the tables on your website. But you don't have to know HTML in order to create accessible tables in Terminal 4, as there are tools built in to help you easily create accessible tables. So don't copy and paste tables from an external source, like Word, into Terminal 4. Make sure to create tables in Terminal 4 using the accessible table tools within the text editor. That will ensure that the table is marked up correctly in the HTML. Make sure that you add column and row headings as appropriate to help users derive meaning from the table data. You can also add a table caption and summary from within the text editor. Table captions and table summaries are metadata, which means that the information is not typically displayed on the page, but it is added to the code behind the scenes and is read out loud to users using a screen reader to provide context and other helpful information, such as how the table is organized. So that helps disabled users to derive meaning from the table. Next up, let's talk about color. Some users, such as those with color blindness or contrast sensitivity, cannot easily distinguish between different colors. Therefore, you must be very mindful of how you use color and contrast on your website. Stick with the color options that are built into content types. We make sure to build content types to meet brand guidelines and accessibility standards for color and contrast. Also, don't rely on color alone to convey meaning, direct navigation, or differentiate between items. Don't say things like, click the red button to get started. Instead, say things like, click the red button labeled register to get started. If you are creating your own graphics to use on your website, then know that the contrast ratio between the text color and the background color must be 4.5:1 for normal text and 3:1 for large text. If you're interested, we have a printable list with each of the hex codes for each of our brand colors and which color, black or white, provides the greatest contrast and readability for each brand color. Also, use tools such as the WebAIM contrast checker, like the web team does, to ensure that you're meeting the accessibility guidelines for contrast levels. Okay, we're almost done now, but I wanted to mention a few other things. First, you want to type text into T4 in sentence case. Do not type your text into Terminal 4 in all caps, unless it's a short acronym. In the past, we have used all caps for many of our headings in the global style sheet, though we are slowly trying to move away from that style site-wide to increase accessibility and readability. But when you see headings in all caps, that is typically accomplished with a text transform code in the CSS global style sheet. You don't actually want to type it into the CMS that way, because some screen readers will read all caps letters individually, like an acronym. And just imagine how obnoxious it would be to have all of the headings on a website read out loud to you one letter at a time. Yikes. So make sure that you type your content into Terminal 4 in sentence case, not in all caps. Next, avoid flashing, flickering, blinking, or otherwise animated images. These can sometimes trigger seizures for some users. Then, if you're using the carousel content type, and if the carousel is displaying items that have a lot of text in them, you'll want to make sure that you're providing enough time for your users to read all of the text on each slide before it rotates. Try timing yourself while reading the text out loud to get a sense of how much time users might need to read all of the content. Also, if you are embedding a form or a widget from a third-party site into your Seattle U website, it must be accessible, or you must provide an accessible alternative. Let me give you an example. Several offices use a third-party tool called Calendly to enable students or prospective students to schedule a meeting for admissions or advising purposes. But the widget is not accessible. Users using keyboard-only navigation have a difficult time getting into and out of the widget. So those offices who wanted to link their users to Calendly to schedule an appointment also needed to provide an accessible alternative side by side to the Calendly widget, like allowing users to email or call to schedule an appointment instead. Okay, I know I've covered a lot of information in this video, and you might be feeling overwhelmed, especially if you feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But there are lots of tools available to Seattle U content editors to assist in making our websites more accessible. First, the web team in marketing communications is always here to help you if you have any questions or need any help. We're happy to meet with you and help you strategize and prioritize. We have also listed all of the guidelines covered in this video along with the slide deck and many other resources on accessibility on the web team's website. You can find that information at www.seattleu.edu/web/content/accessibility. Next, we currently have a subscription to a very useful tool called SiteImprove, and it's available to any Seattle U content editor. SiteImprove offers a number of great webinars and interactive modules to help you learn more about accessibility. SiteImprove also provides content editors with a really easy way to find and fix accessibility issues on your Seattle U websites. But accessibility isn't the only thing this tool can help you with. SiteImprove also helps you find and fix broken links, misspellings, and other content quality issues, along with how to increase your site's search engine optimization, and gives you access to your site's analytics data if you're interested in learning more about the traffic on your website. If you wish to get started with SiteImprove, send the web team an email at web@seattleu.edu and request access. One of the biggest things that can help you increase accessibility of your website is just to increase your understanding about the web experiences of users with different types of disabilities. Get a screen reader and listen to your website in order to get a better sense of what that experience is like for users who need assistive devices. You can download a screen reader as a plugin or extension in your browser really easily. Also, if you have 10 more minutes to spare, I would strongly recommend viewing a series of short user story videos from the W3C. Lastly, you can dig into the information on the WCAG website to learn more about the website accessibility principles and the WCAG guidelines. Finally, thank you for spending some time with me today and viewing this video. I hope you find it helpful and useful, but if you still have questions about accessibility, or if you have any suggestions on topics for future web forums, please contact the Marcom web team via email at web@seattleu.edu or visit our website at www.seattleu.edu/web. Thank you.